Hello, everyone. Thanks very much again for joining us on the Marketing Resolution YouTube channel. It's a beautiful sunny day here, both in France and in the UK, I hope, for my next guest, Mark Mattison. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. Well, not quite beautiful, but not raining, so that's a positive.
For those of us who live off the English Channel, not raining is a gorgeous day.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks very much for joining us. I know that you've been in the practice of, I really dislike the term alternative dispute resolution, but that's the name of our industry. And I know that you've been in this industry for quite some time. How did you get started in this industry?
Okay, well, I first heard about mediation in the mid-90s when a Californian law professor came over to Manchester and he gave a presentation. And he said that in California, you couldn't get a civil case listed unless you'd been through mediation. I think at the time, mid-90s, I'd not even heard about mediation. And I thought to myself, wow, what tends to happen in America sooner or later ends up here. So I thought, well, that sounds interesting. And a few years later, 1998, I had the opportunity to go on a mediator training course, 5-day residential. 20 of my colleagues from the office where I worked as a lawyer. And I think it was the most challenging course I ever did. And only 10 of the 20 passed the course, actually, because being a mediator involves a different mindset from being an aggressive litigator. So I was really hooked from then. And so that's 20 years ago now, just over 20 years, and I'm still hooked.
Well, that's actually a story that we hear a lot, and that in some ways reflects my own choice. I really, really didn't like the gladiator mentality of helping people that were in trouble or in pain or, having challenges in their lives. I wanted to help people, not make it more adversarial for them. And we hear that story a lot. It's a common story. And how does it feel to be a mediator and not an attorney, not a gladiator?
Well, I actually took early retirement in 2005. So since 2005, my principal occupation has been as a mediator, and it's a far more civilized lifestyle than the one I had before.
I like that. Far more civilized. I like that very much. Well, in your practice, do you have a specialty? What do you do for people?
Okay. Before I retired as a lawyer, I headed up a construction team for a number of years in the office where I worked. So I would guess around half, 40 to 50% of the work I do is in some way construction or engineering related. And the other half is a mixed bag of shareholder disputes, contract disputes, professional negligence claims, the odd Inheritance Act dispute. So, but for the 50% that's construction or engineering related, it can be disputes over buildings that have failed or roads that have failed. It could be some engineering project that's failed, typically high value. The other half, the professional negligence, I'm getting a flow of claims involving all sorts of professionals. Quite a lot of them could be architects, engineers, surveyors, accountants, solicitors. So that's quite a mixed bag of work. And I like the fact I'm not in a very narrow niche. I like the fact I get a wide area of work.
But yeah, it's all business related, correct? No family.
It's all business. I've made a deliberate decision not to do family work.
Okay, so for anybody who has a general business issue or conflict or dispute, but specifically your background is construction, engineering, public works kinds of projects, correct?
That's about half of it. But obviously, when I was in practice, I did work across the whole spectrum. In the latter years, I specialized in construction, but because I did work across the whole spectrum, I get appointed in a wide range of cases.
And do most of your clients come to you with representation, or are they without a solicitor?
Okay, typically most of my work comes via lawyers. So that it's almost always legally represented, and it's the lawyers who are the gatekeepers. They're the ones who've used me in the past, have liked what they've found, and will be putting my name forward for more jobs. It's either that, or sometimes I do have some, well, the large PLCs, excuse me, the large PLCs have the in-house legal. So sometimes I'll get a work direct from a PLC from the in-house legal department. So it's the lawyers who are the gatekeepers for me.
Sure. If a client were familiar with you or the process, though, they could ask their solicitor to search out and find a mediator with your kind of background and move things along to mediation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if I were a strong client and knew that I didn't want to take things into the court, that I just really wanted to get things over and done with, then I could ask my solicitor and hope that they find someone like you. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So, well, when an attorney or a business person wants to find you, wants to connect with you and ask you questions about your background or your practice or your pricing, what's the best way for someone to connect with you?
Well, the website that I run has a lot of that information. So if you look on my website at www.markmattison.co.uk, well, you'll find a list of charges. You'll find my CV, you'll find my draft mediation agreement, you'll find a link to my listing on the International Mediation Institute, where there's a lot of feedback shown. So, and you'll find a bit of information about me that I've posted as well.
Okay, excellent. That's fantastic. And are you by any chance listed on LinkedIn or any social media?
Yeah, I have a LinkedIn entry, and I've chosen not to go with Facebook, so I don't bother with Facebook so much, but LinkedIn, and Chambers UK have an annual publication, and I'm listed in Chambers as a leading UK mediator. I could have gone with, there are other organisations that do listings, but I've just concentrated on Chambers.
Well, it sounds like it's worked out really well for you. I think your concentration has paid off. So.
Yes.
All right. Well, is there anything in particular that you would like to share with your clients or their clients about how best to use your services or mediation in general?
Okay, well, I suppose a bit about my style of mediation. And obviously, as time goes by, you develop your own style. And in any event, the market moves as well. So here are a few thoughts. First of all, I think that preparation is absolutely key. So I usually work on a fixed fee basis. And frankly, unless the paperwork I get is excessive, I'll stick with my fixed fee, and I'm happy. Sometimes the case takes longer than others to prepare, but I don't really mind because my eye's not on the clock, it's on the preparation. And so I'm quite proactive once I've read the papers in talking to the parties and working with them to determine how best to run the mediation, and maybe in encouraging them to deal with particular points or be prepared to deal with particular points that I think are going to be important. So I would say that's one of my, if people are looking at me and maybe giving feedback, they often comment that I am well prepared, so that by the time I get to the mediation, I might have several lever arches of papers, but I know where everything is, I know what the issues are.
Right.
And I've already agreed with the parties pretty much how we're going to run the mediation.
Okay. Well, and I suppose, you've got so many years with business specialties that if someone brings to you a water intrusion case, that you're fully capable of opening up a set of blueprints, reading the specs, and looking and finding information that would otherwise take a non-experienced mediator some time to learn or ask questions about. And when they hire you, you can just open the documents and understand what it is that you've been provided.
Or to put it another way, if you have expertise in the sector, you can hit the ground running.
Yeah. I think that really is important. I think that, it's nobody wants to pay me to learn about their industry. And so if clients can find someone that already have a specialty in any genre, then I think it certainly pays off for the clients. So
I agree.
So, well, Mark, is there anything else that you would like for viewers to know about you, about your practice, about the mediation and arbitration community in your area?
Okay. Well, first of all, I suppose a bit more about me. If people are unsure about whether either the matter is suitable for mediation or I'm the suitable mediator, I'm more than happy for people to get in touch with me, have a chat with them, talk it through, and see if there's a way forward or not. In terms of what's happening in my area, I'm based in the northwest of England, just live near to Manchester. There's quite a community of mediators across the north of England, an organisation called the Association of Northern Mediators, of which I'm the vice chairman. And that organisation does quite a lot of training. I think we organised a talk from you at one stage. And it provides a community where if other mediators have issues and want to talk it through with me, they can do that. And likewise, I have the opportunity to talk through any issues that may arise on a confidential basis with fellow mediators based in the area. And that's a good thing to have.
I think it's a really good thing to have. And I think that when someone is having a difficult time and they contact you and tell you what their issue is, and you are professional enough to say, that's really not in my wheelhouse, but I know a large community of mediators, let me help you find someone that can best help you. It really helps the industry as a whole maintain that level of professionalism. And I know it seems contrary to say no thank you to some business, but it really serves the client's best interest and it serves our industry's best interests. And so I applaud that you are willing to chat people up a little bit and help them find the right provider.
Okay, the other thing I do is more often than not, I take an observer with me to my mediations. These are people they've done the training, they're looking to gain experience. And so it helps them, and I find often it helps me to have an extra pair of hands, an extra set of eyes watching what's going on. That's helpful. The other thing I do is I do quite a bit of training. So I help run demo mediations. I run every year what I call a mediator surgery. So that's a body of mediators getting together for a half day, sharing experiences, confidence, and learning from each other. So that's an annual event.
I like that. Keeps everybody up to date and on their toes. That's fantastic. Good for you. So if someone watching this video wanted to take a mediation training, are there prerequisites to becoming a mediator? Is it just in your area? Is it just a completely open and accessible industry?
In England, there are lots of organisations that run mediator training courses now, typically, a 5-day course. And so mediators are being trained at an alarming rate, and the huge numbers are coming into the marketplace with expectations of being able to, do something with it. And frankly, it's very hard. So very few actually managed to get their businesses off the ground. And because it's chicken and egg, really. Who's going to appoint them if they've got no experience? And if they don't get appointed, how are they going to get the experience? So it's a real challenge.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate because back 20 years ago, the marketplace wasn't as crowded. And so I've had 20 years to build up a network of contacts who were good enough to send me work.
Right. Yeah. I started in this industry in 1994. The first Legal Bar Association meeting that I attended, I was one of 3 women. So the industry has changed drastically in the last couple of decades. But I do remember when we first started out, it was a bit of a wild, wild west scenario. There was not a great deal of competition. There was not a great deal of regulation. Finding training was really challenging. So for me to get my international certificate in mediation and arbitration wasn't even a degree. It was just a certificate. I had to go to Berlin, Germany, to Humboldt University to find a training. So now it's a lot easier, in my opinion, but I think that still it remains that it's important to clients and if they're attorneys, solicitors, to have someone who has, like you, a specialty, a vast book of experience behind them so that they can help on these cases. Once you've got, that experience mediating or arbitrating, whatever your choice it might be, then you can branch out and hear more general business disputes, more general, kinds of cases. But I think that most of us, like, most places now worldwide are specialized.
Yes.
You might go to a GP and the GP says, well, I'm sorry you're not feeling well. I really need to send you to a cardiologist. I'm finding that it's the same in the resolution industry, that people really want to find a specialist, someone who can really speak their language and get to the bottom of things quickly and I like your word, surgically.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I will put the link to your website below in the description of this video so that people can click and find you and ask questions about, all of the things that we've talked about. I really appreciate you spending your valuable morning with me. I know that you're a busy, busy professional and that it's sometimes tough for you and I to convene these meetings with each other. So I really appreciate you chatting me up today.
Okay, well, thank you.
You are welcome. Enjoy the rest of your day, Mark, and I will talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Okay, talk to you soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mark. Bye-bye.